Hey y'all, my name is Bryant Young.
And Eric Chaney.
Here with the Decent Dads Podcast. Brand new episode this week.
That's right. And probably haven't heard this yet, but we had a great guest on the podcast today.
So great. So many good describing words. No, Eric was a wonderful guest. He's our first law enforcement guy, our first responder, first responder.
Yeah.
Had a bunch of really good stories revolving around law enforcement, but also talking about travel and talking about...
Yeah, we talked about some deep stuff too. We got a little deep there at the beginning and really diving into kind of mental health and how that affects him as a parent as well too. And
it's been a while since we've talked about parental mental health, but it's something that we think is very important here.
Yeah,
so
and I
glad we got to talk about it.
And I love his approach on it as far as how it affects his parenting style and how honest he is with his kids with it and whatnot. So this was a good one.
I think you guys are really going to like this one. So I think we jump right into this, DC.
Let's do it.
All right, Decent Dads Podcast. Here we go. Welcome back to the Decent Dads Podcast. We're here to tell dad jokes, drink coffee, and build a community of dads navigating fatherhood together. I'm Bryant Young, fearless leader, co-host, girl dad, and your friendly local insurance agent based out of Springfield, Missouri. And now, before we get started on today's episode, please help me welcome. He's the coolest co-host with the most, a fantastic soon-to-be father of three, and the home loan expert. Folks, put your hands together and welcome the incomparable Mr. Derek Chaney. How are you, Derek?
Let's go, man. Well done.
Dan got on me about not having enough energy at the end, so I'm going for it today.
Yeah.
Right?
You just kept rising there, man. That was good stuff. Good stuff. But no, doing fabulous. It's a good day for a good day.
It's a good day.
Per the usual, we have another phenomenal guest on today.
I'm excited about this, and I just met Eric, but I can't wait.
Yeah, one of Springfield's finest. Can't wait to talk a little bit more to him. But first, we have some pretty good hoppy coffee today. So
we do.
Who can we thank for that?
Yeah, these coffees are actually brought to you by our friends at Buff Studio, the official coffee sponsor of the Decent Dads Podcast. Buff Studio is a full-service architecture, engineering, and design firm with offices in Bentonville, Arkansas, and Springfield, Missouri. Learn more at buffstudio.co. Thanks, Buff Studio, for your support of the podcast and Decent Dads everywhere. Buff Studio, be a Buffalo. Thanks, Buff Studio.
But yeah, like I mentioned there, got another great guest. I'm excited.
You said that once.
Yep, excited to have him on here. Thank you.
Doesn't make it any less true, right?
I know. I just want to reiterate how great our great guest is today.
He's really great.
Okay, he is so great. But no
pressure.
We're
really just pushing this up.
Sorry, I had to do that to you. But no, we got Eric Schroeder on here today, and Eric, I've known you for probably about 9 months now. I guess it is. Right. We initially met through Leadership Springfield. I don't think Bryant really knew you before tonight.
He actually, because I didn't open the door properly for him, he just kind of knocked on the door and then stepped in, and there's my wife standing in the lobby.
Just walked in, did a quick house search, make sure everything was
good. I was like, pretty used to it.
Myself downstairs. I was like, hey, what's up?
Hey, it's perfect.
But Eric, some people might know you, some people might not. So if you will, tell us, who you are, what you do, give us your dad resume, tell us how many kids you got, what are their ages, and which one's your favorite.
Oh, wow. Throw in the last one there. So Eric Schroeder, I've been a Springfield police officer for 24 years. I'm a sergeant now for about the last 6 years.
Nice.
I've got two great kids. I say great because that's what you're supposed to say whenever you're in public talking about them. No, I've got Drew, he just turned 19. He just finished his freshman year at Truman State. As a pre-med and getting into Army ROTC. And then I have a 15-year-old who is about to turn 16. So we all drive around very scared.
Now, which side of town do you live on? Just curious.
Exactly.
I'm going to avoid that part of the world.
Republic's it's a pretty small area.
Okay, we're good.
Yeah. But we'll get to know the insurance people and the home
very
well
soon.
Yeah. No, she turns 16 soon, so we really are. We're doing the driving thing. But she's 15. She is sophomore at Republic High School. And
cool. Awesome.
Both my kids, yeah.
Nice. I just remembered something I want to ask you about, so I'm just taking notes. So that's awesome. I'm excited to hear your stories because your kids are a little older, and a lot of our guests are folks that have kids that are 5, 6, 7, and under. Right. So I have so many questions, and one of them is about what we just talked about with driving, but we're going to get there. So because your kids are a little older, I'm interested to hear about the tantrums that you might have dealt with. Now, I don't necessarily want you to say something that you're dealing with recently. Feel free to pick whatever you want, but I'll be curious to hear what you have. What kind of tantrums are you dealing with?
I like it because, when the kids are old enough and they're like, hey, where are you going tonight, Dad? I'm like, I'm doing a podcast, and it's cool. We're going to talk about kids and stuff. And they're going, you're not going to talk about me, are you? I'm like, no, Peyton, I'm not going to talk about you at all. So,
hi, Peyton.
Exactly.
Won't even mention your name, Peyton.
I won't mention your name at all. Now, Drew doesn't care. He'll be like, what's the internet? He's not going to even, he won't even watch this. If you watch it this far, Drew, I'm proud of you, okay?
Hey, Drew, it's actually available for audio only on Spotify and Apple if you want to listen to that. Too, pal.
He'll find that. He'll be mowing the grass right now listening to this probably. So, tantrums. So, honestly, two kids are very different. And I've always said it's like the most unique thing in the world is that you go in the kitchen and you have a recipe, and the recipe is mom and dad, and you make a cake, aka baby, and if you made it twice, if you made this twice, two cakes should look the same.
Sure.
But they don't.
No,
and
they don't.
So we have two very different kids, and you know what though? But they have their gifts, and we'll talk about that. But tantrums, man. So Drew has always been. We've always made the joke that he was a 40-year-old trapped in a 10-year-old's body. So he didn't have a lot of tantrums.
Yeah.
I think if I looked at him just a little square after he did something, he'd pretty much wither and disappear. And he'd be like, I'm so sorry, Dad.
Yeah.
Then we have Peyton. Sorry, Peyton. And Peyton is what James Dobson calls strong-willed, in the book. And so tantrum.
Perfect.
The one that always stands out to me. So my wife is very patient. She's been a school teacher for 23 years. And so she deals with lots of behaviors, but I'll never forget when, you get down on that level with young little, probably 2-year-old Peyton, and just, holds the shoulders and says, we don't do that. And Peyton goes, and spits right in her face.
Oh, holy shit.
And my wife stands up, turns around, looks at me and goes, it's all yours, and walks away. And I'm like, okay, here we go. So, tantrums. But what's funny is
how do you deal with that?
What do you do?
A lot of patience. And we talked beforehand talking about tantrums and things. And that was one of those ones that you've got the boiling inside. Everything is in you because that's my wife, and she's walking away. And then the cop in me is like, if you were a suspect, you'd be on the ground right now.
Yeah.
Hands behind the back.
Hands behind the back, on the ground.
Yeah.
So you just learn patience really fast. But again, that passion, though, that she has is what is moving her even now at age 15 into leadership and into a good passion for church and things like that, too.
That's great.
God, that works out. That's awesome.
How about you, DC? What are you dealing with?
Well, this week I don't have a tantrum for the boys.
What'd you do?
And I don't have a tantrum for me.
Uh-oh.
Yep. I'm going to pick on my pregnant wife
Attaboy.
real quick.
Allie, I'm scooting away.
Yep.
I'm distancing myself.
But no, Allie, pretty pregnant right now, and she has one of those apps on her phone that just tracks your pregnancy, tells you how big the baby is.
In fruit size, or what are we going with?
Well, it's
this
like
time?
the most off the wall fruit. Your Lily's
a papaya.
That's what I was going to say. Lily's the size of a papaya. I'm
How
like,
big is a papaya?
Yeah, what the hell is that?
I've never ate a papaya. Like, why can't she be an orange or a watermelon? Like, come on, let's use some common sense here. Anyways, she got an update from this app, and it goes, Lily will be here in 10 weeks. 10 weeks is your due date, whatever. That triggered a response with my wife.
Did it really?
And she freaked out. She's like, oh my gosh, she's going to be here in 10 weeks. We have so much stuff we got to do.
Nesting engaged.
Right?
My brain was
Nesting
already
mode just hit hardcore right there, because the plan was before this weekend was to start remodeling the basement bathroom. So we kind of had that project kind of started already. Well, once she gets this update from this app, now she's like, now we got to clear out Liam's room because that's going to be the nursery. Get it all ready. Now we got to redo Brody's room because Brody and Liam are going to be sharing a room and get that all ready for them. So there's projects 2 and 3 for the weekend.
Yep.
Then,
just one weekend.
yeah, and then during the middle of all this, for whatever reason, she sees the hallway closet and decides to clean it out and organize it.
Oh, shoot.
So we have 4 projects going on, and if somebody walked through our house at this point in time, it looked like a bomb went off. Just a complete mess. And Allie's sitting there for a moment, looking around as she's cleaning out the closet, and she's like, our house is disgusting. What are we going to do about this? And I'm like, babe, it's okay. It's only noon on a Saturday. We still have a whole day and a half. We'll fix it. It's okay. So yeah, her little nesting soul is going hardcore right now, and we got the neighborhood garage sale this weekend.
I was getting ready to say, and you're doing a garage sale this weekend.
So it's like it all came full circle. So now she's like happy. She's like, I'm getting rid of a lot of this stuff, and it's all working out. But
this house is so dirty. What are we going to do about it? We're going to kick you out of the house. You are going to go stay at your mom's.
It's something. But I thought that was pretty funny. And then I mean, like we talked about that night and was joking about it.
Of course,
she was laughing at it, But in the moment, you're just like, this is good.
This is my life now. This is my life now. Yeah.
But what about you, Bryant? What'd you do?
Elsie grew out of the 2-year-old class and has been growing out of it for a couple of weeks now.
Okay.
So my daughter will be 3 at the end of the month.
Yeah.
Elsie sounds very similar to your daughter. So I'm going to just listen very exactly. I'm going to listen very intently to you this evening.
Yeah.
But Else has shown for the last couple of weeks that she needed to not be in the 2-year-old class anymore.
Oh.
Her daycare, they do it by birth date on when you move up to the next class. It's not in cohorts where it's like a school year. It's actually like when you turn 3, you go to the next class.
Yeah.
But Elsie has always shown signs of get me the hell out of this classroom a couple months ahead of her birthday because she's the oldest kid in the class now.
Right. Yeah.
And instead of being able to look up and see other kids doing stuff that she can't do and then trying to learn from them, she's kind of queen of the little people and queen of the little kids, and she hates it.
Well, it's like all her friends are probably gone at that point,
and a lot of her buddies are up in the next class or whatever, and so like drop-offs in the mornings have been absolute hell. Like, she's just the happiest-go-luckiest kid in the car. The walk into school is great. The walk down the hallway is great. And then the second we turn the corner to the hallway that is her little classroom's hallway, she pick me up, pick me up, pick me up, pick me up.
Oh, no.
And just wraps herself around me and will not let go. And it takes 15 minutes for me to get out of the classroom. And it's been like that for weeks. Now, part of me, as the not go-to parent, loves it because she generally doesn't want any comfort from dad. It's always mom. And so part of me is like, yeah, I'm fine with this. I'll stay here all day. You want to keep hugging me? Great.
Nope.
I'll be here all day. The other part of me is like, oh no, I've created a monster. And so we actually, they asked us if we wanted to go ahead and move her up to the 3-year-old class this week. And so she started today. It was her first day in the big kid class. Nice. And I dropped her off at school, and it was like I wasn't even there.
It's like
literally, like looked at me and said, "Bye, Dad," and immediately dove into the pile of Legos or whatever it was that they were playing with. And she and a couple of her little buddies just, like they had been doing it for hours, she just stepped right in between the two of them. All right, let's play with Legos, and they start playing like I wasn't even there.
And you're sitting there with your hand up for that high five bye, and it's like,
it's like you slow zoom in on my eye, and it's a single tear rolling down my face. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I was pretty happy that was, that our decision to move her up was the right one because she was ready. And I will also say, it's fascinating to see the first couple of months when she's in the next age group's classroom because her learning ramps up exponentially.
Yeah, absolutely.
The vocab gets crazy. The hand-eye gets way better. The little dexterous movements get way better because she's watching kids do and say and operate things that she hasn't been able to do before, and then she's learning from them.
Yep.
And it's amazing how much faster she learns those first couple of months.
You're going to see that same stuff. This is what you said. You were anxious for the older kids. So having the older kids, you're going to see that 3 distinct times now through school. Because once they go to school, you're going to see them as the young kids in school, as that first grader, kindergarten, while the 5th graders are walking around, and so they're looking up to them. And then transitioning to being annoyed as the 5th graders, like, when do I get to get out of here? These young kids are so stupid. And then they go to middle school, and then they're little kids again at the middle school. All the way until, again, they go to high school, and they're just the freshmen and get picked on. And before you know it, they start transitioning to the same thing, 100% same thing.
And then my kid's in college, and then I start crying.
Exactly.
You're going to make me cry, Eric. Stop. Stop.
It goes fast.
Oh man, I never thought about it like that, but yeah, that's gonna lead into my kind of dad advice.
Perfect.
Pretty well. But yeah, Eric, that's the next thing we always ask everybody is, what's a good either dad hack
Dad hack alert!
that works well for you and your family, or maybe some good dad advice that you like to share with other dads, or maybe that somebody gave you that you want to share with somebody.
Oh man. So about the best advice that I've learned, and it's probably more for me personally, but then I talk to other dads when we're in our small group for our church and things, and you start seeing the same things that we've talked about here. Is you have a lot in common, and when you think that you are the only one on an island dealing with something in your house, you quickly realize that nobody has it together. And so I honestly have two different things. One is Facebook is the highlight reel of all the good, and I mean,
preach.
Even if we screw up during this, somehow it's going to get edited magically, and we're back.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it never even happened. Sure.
And so Facebook is the same thing. Is nobody gets on. I mean, very rarely. There's a couple people, but nobody gets on. Nobody gets on there.
Nobody likes those people.
We know
anyway,
those people.
Everybody gets on there and they talk about their wonderful vacation and their beautiful awards their kids got and stuff. But nobody says, "My daughter spit in my face today." And, they just, it's not a highlight reel that makes that. So I would say just stop comparing yourself to other people. I mean, we're the hardest people on ourselves. And every time that you see somebody's amazing story and their little Johnny has won the T-ball game or whatever it is, stop comparing yourself to them. It's just not fair. You're never going to do anything.
Comparison is the thief of joy.
Oh, 100%. And it takes years and years of getting through all this to kind of get that way, because you have those hopes and dreams of, my son's going to the major leagues for baseball. I just watched his first T-ball game. I think we're good.
I can tell right now. That's
he's going to be a great JV player in high school. I'm just kidding, Drew. Drew did.
He's out of high school now. It's okay.
He's out of high school. I think the second piece of advice, and again, this one's a little bit more for me, is sometimes it's okay to lose the battle and keep the war in mind. What I mean by that is this is the strong-willed one. I've learned long ago that she will dig her feet in, and I mean, we have pushed. Most kids get to a breaking point and they'll stop. And I've learned that the cost of that battle of winning is definitely not worth that long-term relationship that you're going to have with your child. In other words, I don't want to be right and just to be right, and then my daughter doesn't want to talk to me after she moves out, goes to college, and does all those things.
Yep.
I'd rather take a loss. And there's a lot of times my wife and I have absolutely had to we have very wide open eyes. We're ready to react. We're ready to defend and fight. And then we just take a moment and realize that, again, sometimes it's just not worth winning that battle. So,
do you guys have is the wide eye? Is that like the signal
Code
to
word?
each other? Like, hey, we're getting there. We're getting close.
We've been married for 22 years.
Wow.
I do math real quick, Amy. Hopefully I'm right. 21, 20.
We won't ask you the day.
Okay, good.
Don't
Yeah, you got it. You got
it's
it.
like asking your age at my age. So no. You just learn how the conversation's going, and again, it's also about having your partner's back too, though. If my wife decides that she's charging into battle, I'm not sitting back here watching her go into battle on her own.
No, you're on her
I've got
flank.
her back, and I'm right there. I'm on her flank, and I'm gonna, even if afterwards I'm like, hey, we probably could have done that a little better, hey, I'm with you. I agree with you, but we and this is usually her telling me this. We probably could have done this a little better.
This wasn't my idea.
Yeah, it wasn't my idea. I'm not making this like it. So. But again, take the loss sometimes, and some people out there right now are probably hearing this and they're like, no, you have to maintain that authority, and like at what cost?
Yeah,
at what
sure.
cost? Yeah.
Because we talk about that a lot. That you don't know what you're doing. You don't know how what you're doing right now will affect your kids in the future.
Yep.
100%.
And the only way to know is wait 10 years.
Yep. Exactly.
And I don't want to, crap in one hand and hope in the other and see which one fills up first, and it end up being a bad deal.
Yeah.
So, I love that thought process. Lose the battle. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. And I think it all depends on the kiddos too. And like you said, totally different personalities. So it's like you can approach both situations totally different as well too.
Sure.
Yeah. But what about you? What do you got?
I wish I remembered which NFL quarterback I was listening speak recently on one of the 12,000 Barstool podcasts, but I heard him speak about trying to teach his kids grit and trying to instill. He didn't care if his kids made it to the NFL or if they got kicked off their middle school football team because they weren't good enough. He didn't care about that. What he wanted to instill in them was and he used the word grit, and I liked his way. And when pushed, okay, what the heck does that even mean? What are you talking about? What are you going to do? His answer was, well, I'm not going to tell my kids that they are super smart. I'm going to tell my kids, you worked really hard at that.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm not going to say that, man, you made straight A's. You're the smartest kid in your class. You made straight A's. You worked harder than anybody in your class.
Yeah.
And really praise the working hard part, so that in the future, when they're up against a thing, they're not trying to outsmart the thing.
No.
They're trying to outwork the thing. Because I think we could all agree that now that we've had the value of some hindsight, hard work pretty much trumps most things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so the willingness to go in and work. And so I really liked that thought process in my day-to-day with else, because I think my daughter is very smart. Mm-hmm. But I also don't want her to get that, like, I'm a smart kid chip on your shoulder, and then realize later in life that, yeah, you're a smart kid, but also there's a lot of people a lot smarter than you.
That's right. Yeah.
And so the way you catch up with those people is hard work.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so I really liked that thought process, and I wish I remember which quarterback it was. And if I remember to do this in the edit, I will put his name here.
Right here.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. I never thought of it that way, but yeah, praise the process, not the result.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, that's a really good way to look at that. And that's like mine. It's not really dad hack, and I guess you could call it dad advice, but you know, I mentioned earlier, Allie's pregnant with hopefully Eric's a great guest, you know, with hopefully our third and final child, right?
There's ways to fix that, right?
Planned.
It's called getting fixed.
Final child.
He's going to have 4.
And no. But it's really gave me like a realization, because now that this is the final one, it's like kind of realizing like you're going through some final stages and stuff with your kids, you know, as they hit certain milestones and whatnot. And so I don't know, I just had this realization the other day of like, I feel like a lot of people when they're in the little kid stage or toddler stage, you just really focus in on how hard and difficult that phase is, which it is, right? Don't get me wrong. I mean, they're super dependent, you know, lots of tantrums like we was talking about earlier. But you don't really realize how great it is either, because I mean, how cool is it that, you know, whenever I come home, I'm the coolest dude in the world, right? To Liam and Brody, right? I'm Superman.
Must be nice.
All they want to do is all they want to do is hang out with me, right? I mean, it's like how cool is that? And it's like awesome. Here in a couple years, like I'm not going to be the coolest dude to Liam, right? No. And then a couple years after that, I'm not going to be the coolest dude to Brody. Yeah. A couple years after that, not the coolest dude to Lily. No. And so it's like really, really trying to like cherish, be in the moment. You know, don't take it for granted. I know we've talked about that in several different iterations throughout our different episodes.
But I think keeping that front of mind is important.
Yeah, it is. And it's just, a little bittersweet, you know, at the same time too. But well,
yeah, I mean, I with one side of my mouth, I was complaining about my daughter not being being dropped off in class. And the other side of my mouth was like, yeah, but I'm kind of okay with her being like wanting to be with me and wanting to stay around me and hug on me. Yep. I don't hate that. So I'm trying to, I'm with you, trying to live in the moment, right?
Absolutely. Okay, well, before I cry here and get too teary-eyed, we're going to jump into a little bit different of a topic here, a little more I guess serious here. So Eric, you know, you're the first law enforcement dad that we've had on the podcast.
Yeah, first responder at all, actually. Yeah, anybody.
That's true. And so that's a tough job on top of being a parent. I mean, just the physical toll, the mental toll. I mean, all of that. So I want you to dive into that. Talk about what it's like to be a cop and a dad at the same time.
You know, it's funny because when the kids are little, I mean, they see your uniform and they say they don't quite understand it all. Mm-hmm. The first thing I'm going to say is, number one, to any law enforcement family that you know, just know that the spouse is the hero of the family, not the one who wears the uniform. Because literally, my wife we've made the joke now that I have a little bit more stable schedule. But I mean, there were so many Saturdays where it's cleaning house, it's running the Uber, it's going to the, taking the kids to soccer practice, to baseball practice, to all those things. And to me, it's just, I'm just going to work that day. Yeah. And so the spouse is definitely there. But, as the kids got older and they start understanding, they can sense when things are off with you. And, if you come in right now and you're really upset, they know that. But, we see a lot of things in our job, and we bury it, and we try not to come home and wear that. I have forever taken off my uniform at work, put it in a locker, put on a hoodie and jeans, and came home with a backpack. And then when I go to work, like people in my neighborhood never knew I was a cop for so long because I don't wear my uniform around at home, and I want that privacy, and I want that separation. That drive home has always been it's the old Superman. You throw on the cape, and I'm not saying Superman because you're a hero or anything, but it's just you're two different people. And I am dad, I am baseball coach, I am youth group or small group participant. I'm a church member. I'm all those things, but I'm not a cop. When I'm not at work.
Sure. And
then when you're at work, you've got to put all that family stuff aside, and I can't be worried about Johnny's soccer game while I'm going to a robbery in progress, and I can't be worried about the tantrum that my wife has texted me and saying you're going to have to do something. Your daughter's out of control tonight, and I'm trying to be at work and trying to focus on what you're doing. Again, that's why they're the heroes of being at home. So I'd say the hardest things that I've learned is probably in the last 6-7 years is with the amount of tragedies that SPD has gone through. It goes all the way back to Pearson when Aaron Pearson was shot in line of duty, and that was the first real traumatic line of duty incident we'd have 20 years of our careers. And so going through that, and the kids start getting worried, and you start having the kids that were scared for dad to go to work, and they were still in their 10, 11, years old when that happened. Man. And they were scared, talking to mom going, is dad going to get shot? Is dad going to get shot? Wow. And that's something, again, where the hero at home has to comfort them with that.
Yeah.
And then, you go a couple of years and everything's quiet down for a little bit. And then, I had a call that was a really, really hard call. And the way it works for an officer with our spouses, most of the time I just text my wife, pretty bad call. I'm okay. Gonna be late. We'll call you later. And then she's just stuck not knowing what's going on. But I do that because if they turn on the news and they see, overturned police car and, 3 injured, whatever, she knows everything's okay because those texts start going. But on this one, it was one of those top 5 that are going to be sticking with me the rest of my life. I literally was a regular day, and I get sent to a car that's a truck that's in a ditch, and it's fully engulfed. And I get there, and we work with the fire department and several really brave officers, a lot of off-duty people who stopped by, people who were driving by, and just civilians helping, and literally had to put out the fire. The driver was trapped for 50 minutes, and halfway through this whole ordeal where we're using fire extinguishers, putting out this truck, it's teetering, about to roll over on all the first responders, doing 25, 30 people to save this driver. About halfway through that call, we recognized who the driver was, and it was one of our officers who was on his way home from work, and we hadn't even recognized who it was. And so you get home, and you unpack that. So my wife meets me in the driveway. She hugs me. We cry. We deal with it. We walk in, and basically the spouse tells, my wife tells the kids, Dad had a rough day. And that's all she leaves it at. And I think this is advice to any first responder that's out there. I think what's really important as a parent, and not just first responders, when you guys have major things that happen in life, you need to talk to the kids about it. My kids worried if I was okay, not physically, but mentally. Is dad okay? So a lot of times I get in a car and go, hey, after a couple of days, and I unpack it with myself. I talk to them and I go, here's what happened, and here's how I'm feeling, and here's everything. Here's why you don't need to worry. But just know this is why I get a little quiet right now. This is why if I come home and I just withdraw for a little bit, this is why. And I dealt with that, and then we had our season bad. I hate being heavy because this is a fun.
It's okay,
time.
But that's why we start here, because we want to have these conversations.
It is. And we had one of our closest friends. So Mark Preby literally coached T-ball with me, and our kids are the same age and played baseball all the way through middle school. We have been quasi best friends at the PD, and we get a call. Drew and I, my son and I, are getting a haircut, and we get a call, and it actually came out that an officer had been shot in front of headquarters, and because that's the way it came out. And I called dispatch. We kind of cheat and call 911 and talk to the supervisor. Go, hey, who is it? What's going on? And I hear that Preby was hit by the car and was being rushed to the hospital, and it was not looking good. And so we jump in the truck halfway with a haircut, and we race to the ER. And luckily, again, we have that ability to kind of badge and get through there. And this actually leads into, again, where my son is pre-med. He still talks about this. But we get ushered into like the ER room, big, huge room, cops in the hallway. And I actually walk Heather, his wife, in there. And he's okay, but obviously, he's paralyzed. And We were in the room when the doctors broke that news to both Heather and Mark, and my son's standing over there as a 16-year-old kid just taking all this in and then unpacking that. And then, with Walsh, where do you begin with that, where we have the officer who charges into a gas station and is shot and killed in an active shooter situation. And that one still gets overlooked because of COVID. With my I do a lot of active shooter training for businesses, and people are amazed when I pop that slide up there and they go, wait, we had an active shooter here? Yeah. It was 2 weeks into, everybody on lockdown and watching Tiger King and, I got to break the tension. But, so overall it's just a lot for the kids to take in. And to this day, I think that if you really talk to the kids about what it was like being kids of an officer, I think that's what they would probably talk about, is just wondering mentally if I'm okay, with my feelings and how I think that the safety aspect of it all, they're okay with. They get nervous and things, but it's just wondering if I'm good. So
which has got to be just a huge hurdle, because trying to balance your own mental health, your own, well, basically the 6 inches between your ears, and then also having to be conscious or trying to be conscious of the way you are around your kids. And trying not to, because you are in between those 6 inches between your ears, not snapping at them or not like going off on them. And kudos to your wife for kind of being that buffer.
For real.
I mean, kudos to Amy. That's awesome.
She's had a great team around her. I mean, the one that still, again, sticks out to me is we had an officer from my academy who committed suicide down at Table Rock Lake. He literally killed himself. And I had to go knock on the door and tell his family. And so that was one of those days where my wife was calling on her friends. What do I do? What do I do when he gets home? I need to support him. And then so she had 2 friends come over. And so she has a support network to try to do those things. But yeah, it's, it is hard because you're so preoccupied with what happened. Your kid's telling you about the amazing day they had at the play or, the baseball game. And you look over and go, hey, how was your day? And they're like, I just told you everything. And you're like, oh, hey, I'm sorry. And that's the part about talking to them again and not just going, hey, here's what's going on.
Here's what's going on. And like, I kind of think too, it's like, first of all, thank you for making us feel so much better about our jobs.
No, seriously.
But
thank you for sharing.
For real. Thank you for sharing all that. But it makes me think too, like from being able to relate to your kids as well, because I'm sure they approach you with their problems, right?
Yeah.
And they don't really realize how much you went through, right? And so they're like, well, Johnny called me a bad name at school, or it's in the grand scheme of things, it's a small problem,
right?
And you just dealt with your friends, multiple friends, like you're talking about there, and being able to relate to them, and it's like, look, like that's not really a big deal, but at the same time too, it's like you need to be compassionate with them.
But in the moment, it is to them, right?
It's the biggest problem that they have right then, and
And those kids and our kids have grown up fast, and I think that's a great point that you bring up, Derek. Is they by talking to them about these things, they do look at, hey, I didn't get this, or there's a bullying situation or something, and they can take a deep breath and go, yeah, but Dad told me this, and we even talk about that. We're like, look, that's your issues right now, and it's a big deal, but just know a couple years from now, 4 years from now, you're not going to.
That'll be water. It's going to be water.
It's water currently in front of the bridge. It just hasn't quite gotten under it yet. Yeah. Well, and you said something earlier that stands out to me, that now that we're talking about this, it makes me wonder. So you said your son is in college now.
Yeah.
He's pre-med.
Yep.
But he's also ROTC or ROTC.
Yeah.
Did that come from your vocation, or is that his own deal, or have you talked to him about that at all?
We definitely talk about it. He shares a lot with us, and there's a lot of military in my family. So my great grandfather, World War II. My grandfather was World War II. My dad was Vietnam. He actually just got to do an honor flight down in Florida and got to fly and do that, and that was cool. My brother served in Afghanistan, served in Iraq, and then I was like the first kind of male in our bloodline for a long time not to. And again, we kind of look at police work as quasi-military.
Sure.
So, but my son really grew up around that. I think a lot of it also had to do with, between that and sports and things, that team bonding. But I really do think that he's seen the camaraderie, the family of all of the officers coming together. He sees us dealing with these things and again, watching how everybody rallied around Preby.
Yeah, having that experience with Preby, I can't even imagine.
And getting to watch it from both points of view, seeing it from Mark's standpoint, Coach Mark, and then from seeing it from the standpoint of the community who's pouring into him. So yeah.
Yes. I wondered if there was any correlation there. That's interesting. Yeah. So I'm going to go completely off book here because there was something else that you talked about earlier that I'm now finally going to come back to it. Yeah. You're a professionally trained driver. I'm coming way out of left field here. I'm just going to tell you right now. You're a professionally trained driver, and you are currently, it sounds like, in the throes of training another driver
in the passenger seat.
Can you like just I don't know, maybe give us some tips, but also kind of lay out your thought process, because again, I consider myself to be a pretty good driver. I might as well be a 2-year-old behind the wheel compared to you, and I know that.
No. I mean, it's like a taxi driver. A taxi driver is an amazing driver because they drive all the time. So if you do something long enough, it's not like we're going out and putting on crash helmets every weekend and going on high speed.
Yeah, but I've seen training. You guys. I've seen the pursuit training, and I've seen the car training that you guys do. It's way more than my dad putting me out in the parking lot at Second Baptist. Here, driving circles. That's about what I learned.
It does not translate to how we train our children to drive. So Drew kind of caught on pretty fast. I don't know why or how, but he was pretty natural. I can tell you the best advice not to do is don't just keep putting off training your daughter. So she turned 16 in July, and we took her out to the parking lots. That's the best place to start. Go find like the school parking lot where no one's around, and you pick the vehicle with the emergency brake handle that's right in the middle, and you're going to have your hand on it for a while because again,
for a while.
Yeah, I've never pulled it.
Came so really close,
really close. So, but. My daughter is she's very conscious. She's a safe driver. She pays attention. She focuses. But yeah, it's weird when they just get in the car and they just start going, and you have to remind them. No, turn signal. You have to remind them. Hey, you got to stop at the stop sign. All the things that we do all the time. Sure. Or the hardest thing you're ever going to have to do is when you're in that passenger side. That side of the road gets really, really close fast. And they're seeing cars coming at them, so they're drifting over further and further. And I'm seeing this white line. I literally reach over and move the wheel and go, white line, because I'm not wanting to roll down the hill.
That's our first T-shirt. White line. This is the white line run up.
Just reaching the wheel over. White line. So, but it's probably just like anybody else's. You're going to learn it. You're going to learn taking them out, and it's an eye-opening experience when your babies that you have now are behind the wheel, and you don't have that driving instructor wheel to just grab it. It's reaching over and saying, "Okay, let's get it."
Reaching over and grab the handle.
A lot of faith.
I am terrified of our boys driving because we have those little RC cars.
I can't wait to
the ones that they drive and can steer around. They got like a big dump truck one. Liam is a phenomenal driver.
Yes, he is.
Yes,
he is.
We'll drive around the neighborhood on the sidewalk. He never gets off the sidewalk. He'll stop if he gets too far ahead of us. Perfect driver. Brody aims for like the flower beds. How quickly can I run into these flowers and just off-road the shit out of this truck? And I'm just like,
and kids can be so different. Again, so it popped in my head when you say this is again, go-karts. So take your kids down to Branson and go-karting because you're going to learn about how they're going to drive. And this is true. So my son is the super safe driver at age 10 driving the go-karts. His hand's at 10 and 2 and he's he's making hand signals. He's not really.
But still.
Hand signals the other drivers that we're racing. I'm like, come on, let's go. Let's cut him off and rim him. And I will never forget this. We do have a picture, and I came across this on Facebook the other day as a memory. And it's literally Peyton, probably at age 4, and he did have the little kid track. And she's going. She just puts her hands up in the air, and the go kart rails into the wall. And she goes, ha! And she goes driving again. She goes, like no hands, like it's a roller coaster, and rams into the wall. And now you fast forward to her driving a 2,000-pound vehicle. I'm going, white line.
That's funny.
And I'm just waiting for her to go, I got it,
man. Oh, that's so funny. Well, my brother-in-law went to the Highway Patrol Academy and did all of their advanced driving training stuff. And so I've picked his brain a little bit too about, okay, so when because he's got kids that are right around our age as well. I was like, all right, so when Jack starts driving, what are we doing? Because I want your coaching too, because I want like the professional training.
Oh, right.
Because my parents were very good but I had like an insurance agent and a school teacher teaching me how to drive. So it was drive safe no matter what, or it gets way expensive. And that was really the thing. So it's a little different can of worms.
Oh man, yeah, we're a little bit blessed because it's like I can just take the boys down to the farm and it's like they can drive you know, the 4-wheelers,
Absolutely.
skaters, tractors, and it's like there's nothing
Just go
around
put them out in
for
the field.
miles, right?
Yeah.
Like you're good. So we do have that.
Well, if you can't, like I said, you can't do that. You go to Branson, go pop in some,
Well,
some
I hadn't even
dollars
thought
into the
about that.
go-karts,
Yeah.
man, and
Yeah.
you get the whole functioning how it works.
Yeah. I mean, I learned how to drive a Second Baptist church parking lot.
Yeah.
Because it was
Yeah.
big. And
yeah, that's a huge parking lot.
You
Yeah, yeah.
joked about dodging telephone poles,
Oh,
but
yeah.
that was literally how Dad taught me how to do it, was to weave in and out of the light poles
Yeah.
on a Saturday at like 10 o'clock in the morning when nobody was there.
Yeah, and you take advantage of it. So I'm from the north. I'm actually from Michigan, and my parents did
Oh, so
that.
you've got even
forgot
more
about that.
driver's training with
So-
the snow and ice.
And that's what I was going to say is take advantage when you get a year to train your kids. So when you get to that winter time and that snow hits,
Sure.
you go find a parking lot, and you don't do this just for fun. Okay, you don't do donuts for fun.
Those are
But
training
it's
donuts.
Training donuts. You have to show them how the car reacts under
There's
snow.
so many police jokes I'm
I
not
know,
making right now.
I
I
was
just
gonna
want to
say
make sure we're on the same page. Just so we're on the
Donuts
same
are
page.
good. Obviously.
So
Training donuts.
whenever we do that, because there's a church parking lot literally in my backyard.
Yes, there is.
Disclaimer, it's
whenever
illegal.
we do this, and the cop comes over and says, "Sir, why are you doing donuts in the church parking lot?" I'm gonna be like, "Eric Schroeder told me this was good
This
driver
is good.
training."
These are training
And they're gonna
donuts.
say, yeah, he retired 13 years ago. I've heard about this guy. Some stories we can't talk about here.
That's right. Can't talk about it. Can't talk about it. Well, maybe some stories we can't talk about.
There you go.
Coaching. You mentioned earlier coaching Drew's baseball team and whatnot. And so I feel like that's kind of like an unofficial section.
It really is.
Of,
Yeah, we talk
part
about
of our
sports.
podcast here is sports or
Yeah.
coaching. If you're going to coach, if you're not going to coach.
Yeah.
So what's your experience been like with coaching?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So, I mean, I was an athlete. I played college baseball. It's actually what brought me from Michigan down here to College of the
Oh,
Ozarks.
cool.
And That's
Okay.
how I got here. I
Oh,
followed
nice.
Big Brother. Big Brother came down too. And, so I fairly decent athlete. Not great. I mean, it's College of the Ozarks. It's not,
Still
it's not-
college ball,
Yeah,
dude.
it's not.
Still
yeah,
college
yeah,
ball.
I was a college athlete. I'm just saying. Yeah.
I was kind of a big deal. I mean,
Kind of a big
Gotta be
deal.
a deal, you know. So, but with youth sports, you're going to find this out real quick is when all your friends all get together and the moms are like, that's usually how it starts. Is we're all going to play soccer, and so you all show up there that first day, and everybody's looking around like, all right, who's in charge? And you keep looking. Now, here's my advice right away.
Look at your
Don't
shoes.
Make eye contact with anybody
Yeah,
because
yeah,
what
just look down.
notoriously happens is my wife goes, well, I mean, he played college baseball. College baseball is really close to 3-year-old, 4-year-old soccer.
Exactly.
And so you end up in charge of that. So
around
I mean,
balls.
Inevitably. Yeah.
I started off with soccer, which is just more about just with today's age, taking pictures of the kids falling over on the bench because they're in there, and everybody wants to take a break. I have the whole team's like, "Hey, coach, can I go take a break?" Because they don't want to play anymore. They want to go play on the bench, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I need at least a couple players on the field to play." And we call it comet ball too because it just looks like a comet running around the field.
Oh, that's so.
Some kids.
That's such an
trailing
accurate
behind.
description. Oh
Some
my
kids
gosh, I
trailing
love that.
behind, and the ball's somewhere in the middle, and. So, but yeah, and then it's clear though when all of a sudden you put together a t-ball team because your wife starts calling around going, "Hey, we're going to put together a t-ball team." And by the way, my husband played college baseball, so he'll coach. It'll be fine. And she lets you know. last.
voluntold.
And you show up there and you're like, you got these drills for college. You're like, oh yeah, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to hit some hard ground balls at them and stuff. And these kids are like, raising their hand like, I got to pee. And you're like, okay, go over there real quick. And you got 2 kids in the outfield chasing butterflies. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh. And the kids hit the ball and they run to third base. And it's a lot of fun.
That's so true.
Little different deal.
But it's pretty rewarding. You go from that. And we had the same core group of kids. And we found a niche. And I will say this about sports. If you don't, oh my gosh, with today's world right now, if you don't grasp onto what you really want out of sports, I mean, just mission statement yourself right now. Your child, if you're listening to this, is not going pro in any sport. They're not. I don't care how great you think Johnny is right now at basketball, soccer, baseball, whatever there is. They're
Chill
not
out.
going pro.
Yeah,
They're not going
relax.
pro. And how many times I had to tell some of our friends this, I'm like, I played college ball, D2 NAIA, and I was facing 98 mile an hour, 97 mile an hour fastballs in 2000 and 1999 and things. It's like, Johnny's not going to go pro.
Yeah.
And so trying to tell them this is what we want them to have. We want them to learn how to handle stress. We want them to learn pressure, getting up there when the game's on the line when they get older. Learning failure, learning adversity, and all those things. And so we actually created the Knights, was the name of our team even, because we talked about character and traits, and that's what we modeled the team off
I
of.
love it.
And we did that for 7-8 years. That was Preby on there. We had another officer, Markham, his family was on there, and we had a couple firefighters and things, and we were not the best team by all means. We got a couple sponsors, so we could have at least go to a couple tournaments, but we weren't these travel ball teams where people are pouring in $4,000 or $5,000 a summer,
right,
and sacrificing all of their family time so they can get the best opportunity for Johnny to go pro. Johnny's not going pro, guys. You're not going pro.
It's not going to happen.
Enjoy vacation instead of going to the 17th 8U tournament in Texas that you drive your family down to.
At fourth grade.
Right.
Who cares?
Yeah, you're getting scouted. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
It's real to me. It's real to me. Yes. Ridiculous. Living through your kids, right?
Yeah.
You said something in the break, and it was actually on your questionnaire. So, and it's just a short one. I'm just curious about it. So you mentioned like vacationing and experiences for your kids as opposed to stuff, material things.
Yeah.
My wife and I have a similar thought process, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on it.
So I grew up pretty well like that too. As my parents, my mom was a teacher. My dad worked for Detroit Edison, which is our version of kind of city utilities here, but just in Detroit, a little bit bigger. And he worked his tail off to provide for us. And what I learned at a young age was there were people who had bigger houses, nicer cars, better clothes, those type of things. But I got to travel, and I don't remember what kind of shoes I wore my junior year in high school. I don't remember, how much longer it took for me to get the Nintendo than anybody else, or what size our TVs were. All those things that people put value on today. But I remember the trip to Cancun.
I love it.
I remember the trip to Bahamas. I mean, we're talking about going on a cruise when I was 8 years old, and I can tell you the feeling I had walking on there as an 8-year-old. But I can't tell you anything about that age of anything else other than those experiences, and not just big vacations, even just we went camping, and so we took the camper out to the lake, and those memories. So we really modeled our lives off of that too. And so we literally have a separate bank account. It's advice we give young people is do a direct deposit from your check and just portion off a portion of it, and let that accumulate. Let that be your vacation fund. If you come across a little bit of extra money from a garage sale, something like that, you pop that money in there.
Toss it in there.
And when it gets to that, that level that you're ready, you go do something extraordinary and fun, and they will remember that. So my kids really have been spoiled.
Love that.
They've been, at age 5 or 6, when my daughter was 5 or 6, she took her first cruise. It was to Alaska with mom and dad and grandma and grandpa, and they've now been on 6 or 7 cruises. They've been to Hawaii, to South America, to the tip of South America too.
Wow, that's awesome.
I mean, they've really gotten to experience that stuff. And again, they can't tell you. I mean, we don't go out and buy the brand new Jordans or the nice polo. I mean, my daughter, she's listening. She's buying her clothes, and she's shopping on Shein right now because it's like Timu's little brother who has clothing, and so we don't have to go and get the nicest of things, but that way we can have those fun experiences to go and travel. Yeah.
But that hit me right in the gut too.
Same.
Like that like the truck doesn't matter, the clothes don't matter, the shoes don't matter, because as I'm sitting here thinking about it, I could not tell you.
Same.
I mean, there's a couple of like, I think I knew what I wore to prom,
Right?
but like that was because it was prom related, right?
Right.
It was an event related thing and an experience related thing. Yeah, well said, man. That's great.
Yeah.
That's how I was. Like, as you're saying that, I'm like, man, I don't really remember all this stuff that I got as a kid, but I remember the vacation.
That's why I love doing this thing, man. I love doing this
how
thing.
How fun they were.
And your kids won't remember the remodeled bathroom.
Can you tell my wife that? Can you tell my wife that?
They're not going to remember the remodeled bathroom. They will remember, again, the trip to Silver Dollar City. The little things. And I'm not, again, not everybody has the ability, and I know we've been blessed. It's funny, a teacher and a cop saying we've been blessed enough to do these things, but man, just being able to do these things.
Well, it doesn't have to be big, like you're talking about. Like I remember, like as a kid, I mean, we do like small stuff was like our family vacation, and like going to like Fantastic Cavern.
Yeah,
and like as a 5 or 6 year old, I thought that was the
coolest thing in the world,
and I still remember that to this day.
St. Louis Cardinals games, Royals games, those quick trips up.
Yeah,
and again, that's how we started for 10 years. I mean, it wasn't like we were going on cruises when I was a 3-year cop and my wife was.
Sure.
We were like, okay, Mom and Dad, can we borrow some money? We gotta get some diapers.
Preach. You got any funny stories? Anything that really stands out to you? Anything that we haven't talked about that you think we should?
Yeah, I mean, I got a so Debbie Downer there with a lot of that stuff.
No,
So,
it's
yeah,
okay.
That's why we end on funny stories.
That's why we end on funny stories.
And I like that we're ending this way because I kind of started this way when we talk about two very different kids. So we quickly learned some traits that our kids were really good at and things that they were not good at. So I literally asked my wife as I was getting ready to walk out the door. I said, "Honey, they want to know what funny story." I'm just trying to think. It's been, I got a 19-year-old.
I got a lot of years under my belt. Sure.
And she goes, "Just talk about Drew singing." And I went, "Wait, what? Oh, okay." So there we were.
Sorry, Drew.
So there we were, and we're driving down to Florida. My parents, when they retired, they bought a place down in Lakeland, knowing that the families with kids would come down towards that area. And
Perfect.
So we were driving down, which is a whole nother story of taking that trip. But we make it down to about Destin, and we were deciding to spend the night there. And we roll down the windows, and we're enjoying the breeze. And now you got to take yourself back, 12, 13 years of technology. You don't have the phones or the iPads, that stuff. What you had was the old DVD players stuck on the back of the seats.
Yes.
Yeah, baby.
On the headrest, it's in there, and the kids have that. And then the kids finally started getting a little bit of music on the very first iPods. And so out of nowhere, we're just looking around. All of a sudden, we just start hearing, "I got a feeling." What the heck? And my son, who's probably, I'm going to get this age wrong, and he's going to get embarrassed. But I mean, maybe 10 years old. So it's probably 9 years ago, maybe 9 years old.
Yeah.
He is just so off key. I can't even sing off key enough.
Yeah.
He's got these noise canceling headphones
He has
on.
no idea he's doing
He
it.
has no idea.
Yes.
So if you put your fingers in your ear right now and stick it in really deep and just start singing really off key, that's what we hear. We're like, "I got a feeling tonight's gonna be a good night." And we're like, what the? And Amy and I are just looking straight for it because we don't want him to see us.
Right.
We are crying, laughing. I'm like, you know what I'm talking about, laughing when you're starting to turtle a little bit, and you're like, straight face. Your jaw's hurting, and you're trying not to deuce in your pants. I'm gonna have to pull over. Exactly. And so I say that because I laugh,
good.
and I picked on Peyton enough to so you can know. But you talk about the difference in kids. So then I have Peyton, who out of the blue decided she wanted to go with some friends to a different youth group at a different church, and so she goes to a church in Republic. And we find out that another member that's there, they were going to do a youth service, and it was literally Easter. They put on the whole service with the kids, and they ask her, "Hey, can anybody sing?" And she's like, "I can sing a little bit." And you hear in the distance upstairs in the bedroom some singing every once in a while, but not very much. So she sings, and we weren't there. We were at our own church and doing our own thing, and then find out that she's been asked to be on the choir, and we're like, wow, okay, now this is a pretty big church. I mean, this isn't a small, 20-person church. This is, a couple hundred people in attendance. And so she didn't want us to go, though. So she's now singing in a choir out of a pretty big church at age 15. And we're like, we want to come see it. And she's like, no, this is kind of my thing right now. And we're like, okay. So we find out that they stream stuff, and you listen to it, and just like this, we sound so much better right now than what you're hearing. Okay, so this is great audio equipment, but we're amazing sounding. My singing back there was awesome. That was your speakers. So that was your speakers. That was your speakers.
Yeah, your speakers, not my voice. That's your speakers.
Yeah, that was 100%.
But we finally talked her into it, and she was going to actually lead a song. And this is only in the last 2 months or 3 months. And so my wife and I go in, and the most annoying thing is going into a church. Now we are ingrained in our church, so we're not like new believers. But you walk in, and people are like, "Oh, thank Jesus that you're here today." And you're like, "Oh gosh, just let me go sit. I'm just here."
No. I'm in. I'm in the club. I'm in.
You want to see my card? I've got the card. I've been a member since 1995. And we're already on the team. And so go talk to that guy over there. He looks like he's lost.
Yeah.
No, but we go and sit down, and I can tell my daughter's nervous, and you can tell she really didn't want us there. But she gets up to the mic and she starts singing. And again, I'm not the person who says my kids are amazing. They're going pro, right? But she starts singing,
but
and Amy and I just stopped and just stared, and the little tear that you talk about just starts coming down your eye, and you are speechless. And that, number one, not that she had a gift to sing and wasn't like the son in the background going, "I got a feeling," but she had the courage to stand up on a stage in front of 200 people and sing and just belt it out and not care and be really good at it. And so we are so incredibly proud of what she does. She's literally going to be singing this week. And so when we know that she's going to lead a song, our church knows it. We just go, hey, we're going to be at her church this week because we're going to go sit and watch. And each time we've been there at least 3 times now, and you just sit there and the feeling you get as a parent, and it's not pride about their abilities. Mm-hmm. It's the grit. It's putting in the work to stand up there and do that.
And good callback too.
That takes the proverbial stones, man. Going up 100%. To do that kind of thing, speaking, singing in particular in front of people. That takes
at age 15, where everything is walk the line, don't step out of line,
right.
don't get made fun of. And going up there and grabbing the mic and singing.
Yeah. Well, and singing in a choir versus singing in front of the choir,
right? 2
very different things, too. My mom's a music teacher. I've spent a ton of time with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Singing in front of the choir is very different than being able to hide behind everybody else.
And lip watermelon.
Yeah, watermelon. He knows all our secrets. He knows what's going on. He knows the secrets.
Just lip watermelon. You're singing loud. We taught our son that.
Yeah, exactly. It just looks like you're singing.
It paid off.
That's pretty good. Well, these are the kind of jokes we like to end with. So I do think we should probably go to everybody's favorite part of the podcast. Do you think?
Oh, Eric's got to know the favorite part.
It's Dad Joke of the Week. All right, let's jump right into it.
Yeah.
Are we gonna make him go first? No, I want you to go first. I want to let the bad ones out of the way first.
Okay. Should I do a cop joke?
Yes. Please
okay.
do. Okay, good.
All right. Did you guys hear about the celery getting arrested? Yeah. It was accused of stalking.
Nice. But
wah wah wah. Well, so there's some stereotypes about law enforcement, right? Maybe it's donuts, maybe it's coffee. Yeah. We'll talk about a few of them. My little nephew, he's 12, came to me the other day and he was like, I had a cup of coffee and he wanted to try my coffee. I was like, you're not gonna like it, but okay, sure, here you go. And I gave it to him and he takes a big slurgle of it. And he goes, oh, that tastes like dirt. I was like, well, yeah, it was ground this morning.
I like it.
Good pun.
Hey, we did a pun. All right.
Oh, okay. So
sorry to make you
here.
really
I fail here because honestly, I didn't prepare a joke. Now I literally walk around and tell dad jokes all the time because my kids roll their eyes, and so I'm gonna fail here. By not having one prepared. And then on the way home, I'm gonna be calling my kids, going, "Hey, here's a funny joke." So I'm failing.
That's okay. That's all right. No problem.
I don't have one. I mean,
no worries. How about this?
Amazing.
How about this one? Let's see. We've got.
I got one more too.
Go for it, DC. Take one.
Yeah.
What do you got? Because we have a laundry list.
I'll keep thinking. Yeah. Over here.
What do you call it when you and your friends go out to eat together? Taste buds.
That's pretty good. Yeah, that's solid. Yeah, that's pretty good. Hey,
No
were you born on a highway?
No.
Oh, I just assumed since that's where most accidents happen.
There it is.
Ouch.
I can't drop the mic. The mic won't drop anywhere. It's staying right there.
Hurt. Okay, we're ending on that one.
Speaking of accidents, we talked about this earlier.
Speaking
of
tears,
a 4th child somewhere listening to this for DC over here. Remember, you were loved.
You were loved, little Johnny.
Very true.
Little Johnny, we love you too.
Little unplanned, but very loved. Very loved.
Wrap it up, DC.
Yeah, well, we got to end it on our Decent Dad's motto.
That's right.
Keeping the bar within reach.
Keeping it within reach.
No, in all seriousness, we're here to build a dad community, share stories, share dad hacks, dad advice, share jokes as we just did there. So if you have some good stories, good advice, jokes, share them with us. We'll ruthlessly steal them, give you credit.
If we remember to.
If we remember to. I know
like that quarterback's name I'm supposed to remember.
Oh, that's true.
There.
Awkward.
It's right next to my dad.
But no. Be sure and check out our episodes on all our social media pages: Facebook, Instagram. You can listen to our podcasts that get released the 2nd and 4th Tuesday of every month on YouTube, on Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.
That's right. So I think the only thing we really have to say is, way to go, Decent Dad.
Good job, Eric.
Good job, buddy. Anything else? Anybody else wants to plug? Anything we can think of? Anything at all?
If you'd like to join the Springfield Police Department, we are hiring. And I get a $3,000 bonus if you put my name down on the application. Thank you.
That's funny.
You have to say that disclosure.
Yeah, exactly. Also, we heard about small group. Hi, Nick. All right. So I think we go ahead and wrap this up here, fellas. We'll see you next time. Insurance agent, banker. We don't know what we're doing.